Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. We had a Senate Banking Hearing Committee today, hearing with the Senate Banking Committee, sorry, and I can't say it was all positive. There were some positive comments, but what I got out of it was that they don't like crypto in the financial services and financial industry because they think it's a threat to the financial system. But in other industries, whether it's like gaming, music, logistics, etc., they thought it did have some benefits. So when you're not dealing with like, banking, payments, maybe even remittances and stuff like that, I think they're going to be a lot less harsh with the regulations. Now, Elizabeth Warren wasn't the harshest of the critics. Yes, she was critical, but she did recognize that the demand for crypto is growing and there was no way you can ban it. She wants regulations, especially around like leverages, derivatives, and like options and stuff like that. And I think she's actually right about that. She's also very much concerned that the decentralized nature of cryptocurrency maybe wasn't all that real. And that can be understood because the amount of crypto held by the top people is actually like more concentrated at the top than money held by private individuals right now. You can see like how much of the wealth of certain coins is held by like the top couple of holders. And if you look at the top cryptos, that is true. They also think that Bitcoin represents the entire crypto industry, and we know that certain countries like El Salvador wants to use Bitcoin as legal tender, so that's why they're kind of afraid. But if they look deeper and see that like a lot of cryptos don't really have to do with the financial sector, um, then they would actually understand that crypto has more uses. So what I got out of it is that from the main point is that non cryptos that don't deal with the financial system very much, that have other uses, whether it's like in logistics, in gaming, in music, in collectibles, not DeFi because DeFi is like financial industry and that's going to be sooner or later regulated really hard. Those are going to have an easier time passing regulations. And like the big main nets, if they don't deal too much with the financial sector, which kind of cuts out DeFi sometimes, they're going to have a much easier time passing regulations. But the ones that specifically deal with finances and money and the financial system are going to have a much harder time passing muster. They're going to have much heavier regulations. And that's actually pretty much true for just the traditional industry as well. Those that deal with banking and finances do face stricter regulations than those that don't. So that's one of the main things I got out of it. Also, like Warren is like very, very like concerned that crypto is going to end up like banking or even worse, and that's not an invalid concern because she's afraid that like a bunch of like miners or super coders will basically take over the power from the bankers, and she's like, well, that's not really any better. And the thing is, like, there's validity in that concern. You know why? Because people for the last several years have been afraid that China is going to shut down Bitcoin mining and use that as leverage because they hold over 51% of the hash rate. I don't think that's true anymore, but for the last several years, that was true. And if Elizabeth Warren didn't actually have a point and no one held that much power, that wouldn't even been a fear. So just the fact that that fear existed shows you that she actually does have valid points. Now, you might say she's like a mouthpiece for the banks, but Warren isn't a mouthpiece for the banks. If you look at her donors, there's not a bank or investment firm in the top 50. And Warren's been known to be very, very much anti-bank. In fact, all the banks like actually hate her. But she kind of sees crypto like the banks, and she sees a controlling group in crypto, which there kind of is one right now, just like there's a controlling group in central banks. That's her worry. Some of the other people that are speaking up for the financial industry maybe have been bought for the banks because they kind of talk like it. So there's going to be a lot of resistance in the financial sector. And I think they're pushing the FOIC, the CFTC, and the SEC to come up with stricter regulations, especially in the financial industry. And I think that's where the bulk of the regulations are going to hit on the head, the financial industry, not the other industries. I'm sure there will be some regulations with that, but when you're not dealing with banking and finances, the regulations are going to be a lot lighter. So like with the NFT stuff, I think the regulations will come, but I think they'll come later than those for DeFi. And I think they're going to be hit less hard than DeFi because DeFi directly kind of attacks the traditional finance industry. Whereas NFTs, if you're selling like collectible cards, yeah, you can scam people, but I think like that's less of a worry for them than like trying to formulate an entirely new finance system for the United States. Obviously, they're concerned with stability, which crypto isn't really a masterpiece for stability, but I'm afraid that will also stifle innovation. So Gensler and Janet Yellen are listening to all this stuff. Gensler is obviously a lot more knowledgeable in crypto than Janet Yellen. But these are the people that actually have power. I can't say overall the hearing was positive, but it does give me a little bit like more hope for like these collectible NFT stuff, and maybe for VeChain as well, because they don't really deal with finances. They're more with like logistics tracking, and I think that industry is going to be that the regulations for that industry are going to be quite a bit lighter. I also have confidence for a lot of the main nets because most of the main nets like Ethereum, Cardano, Dot, yes, they will deal with DeFi and finances, but they have other purposes outside of that industry. So I think those will actually do fine as well. But like the remittance coins like XRP, XLM, and others, they're going to have a much, much harder time. XDC and Algorand, I'm not really sure. There is like ISO 20022 compliance, but the thing is like that I don't really think will be given too much consideration when you actually look at the actual regulations they're going to have for the finances industry and whether or not they're going to allow cryptocurrencies at all. They're going to regulate stablecoins as well. They're kind of making stablecoins out to be the enemy now, but we all know they're all going to issue their CBDCs, so they might just be clearing the way for that. So right now, I think if you want to be safer, I would actually avoid some of the coins that have directly to do with finance. I know a lot of you are tempted by DeFi, but those are pump and dumps. Just get in, get out with your money. I would actually invest in longer term cryptos whose sole purpose doesn't completely lie in the financial industry, because I do think regulations for that industry are going to be so much harder than other industries. And the other thing we can do is write to your congressperson, because we know that the main purpose of the congresspeople is to get reelected, right? You guys do know that, right? So if enough of us write to these congresspeople, especially those of you with a congressman or a senator in those districts that works on the banking committee or the finance committee, if they see enough of those letters saying like, hey, I'm going to vote for the other guy if you don't change your stance on this, or like, I really believe in this, you should actually do more research on this, they will actually do that because they want to appease their voters. So like, with enough power, with enough like, people writing in, we can get them to change their views. So look up your congressman, see if they're on this committee, see if they're at the hearing, and see if they're really anti-crypto. And then see if you can't get a lot of your friends to go change their mind via the letters. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.